In this video, I am going into detail again on Photoshop techniques. You can see what the final product looks like here. I will just, by hiding my adjustments that I've made, will step backwards to where we began. So you can see the original scan, a little bit like the before and after. I have made a number of enhancements. Okay, so here is my original, as you remember, and then after I've created all of my retouching, this is my final product. And I'm I'm missing something here. Here, this one. There we go. That was an important part. Okay, I've navigated back to my scan, my original scan, and I've got my cloning layer, which you guys saw me do in class, and here's my contrast layer, adjustment layer, and I'm going to, in this demo, I'm going to incorporate two other elements into the photograph, and one of them is the floral wallpaper, and the other one is a drawing of abstracted trees that I made in Procreate. So I'm going to go ahead and open those files right now. And here is floral wallpaper, and let's see, and here is my, I'm gonna go here. Okay, so I'm opening two at once. Okay, and now I wanted to talk about this dialogue that we're getting, missing profile. Okay, this is a color management piece, and if you get the dialogue that says that you're missing a profile, we're going to click assign profile because you want your files to have a color profile. So I'm going to assign the working RGB profile, which is good. I'll say okay to that. And then the second one is saying that my profile doesn't match, and I'm going to convert it to the document's working space. So okay to that. Now we've opened in tabs across the top, and I'm going back to my scan. And so I'm going to begin addressing adding in the elements to my image. So I'm going to come over here to the floral wallpaper, and well, let's just back up and look at this again. Okay, my original scan. So image size, remember 8.5 by 11 at 300 ppi. I cropped it, right? First, if you remember, I set my resolution in my scan when I went through the scan, very important, and then I cropped this picture to be 8.5 by 11 at 300 ppi. So I'm going to cancel. Now, when I go to my floral wallpaper, because I'm going to be taking this file and putting it, I'm going to be adding it to my scan, but I want to be sure that the resolution is the same. So I'm going to image size, and when I look at this, I can see that my resolution is 72 and the width is 20, you know, the width is really wide and the height is really high. So I'm going to uncheck resample, and I'm just going to type 300 in the box here, and that gives me a width that's about 5 inches by 7 inches, which is good because I just need to cover the shirt in my photograph. So I'm going to say okay to that. And now I'm going to take my move tool and I'm going to mouse down in my file and then drag it up here and then release. When it changes pictures, then I release. And oh, it didn't copy. Sometimes it copies and sometimes it doesn't. Let's try again. Sometimes it works. Try again. Okay, and now I release. Okay. Okay, there it worked. That's what I wanted to do. It shows up as a layer. It's on the top, top of my layers, top stack, and I'll just double click that layer and change it to floral paper and hit the return key. And I'm going to, just so I can see a little bit better, I'm going to turn down the opacity a little and position it so that it's where I want it, which is, we're going to use it for the shirt, right? Okay, and now I can turn the opacity back up to 100%. And I'm just going to toggle that off for a minute. Okay, the next step is I'm going to create a mask in the shape of the shirt that will allow the wallpaper to show through. And I'm going to select the background. And now I come up to my select window and go to, or select menu, and then go to select and mask. And in the select and mask window, now in the view mode, I have the overlay, which is why it's red. This is not affecting the image. It's just showing me what is masked right now. And right now everything is masked. So I'm going to reveal the shirt through the mask. And to do that, I will take my quick select tool and I'll make my brush a little bit bigger with bracket key. And I just mouse down and drag. That looks pretty good. So I don't want the arms to be revealed. So I'm going to zoom in and finesse this a little bit more to subtract from the mask. I'm going to hold down the Option key and click. Actually, yeah. Because this is going to become a selection when I'm done here. My computer is kind of slow today. I'm not sure why, but I might need to reboot. Okay, I'm gonna just see if I can get this. Oh, that's a little too much. Option. Oop. Holding down my Option key as I click. There. Okay, that looks really good. Okay. And now I'm coming over here to my output settings. And I want to output to selection. When I mouse down in this menu, I have a bunch of different options, but I'm going to make a selection. And I'll say okay to that. And here is my selection. Now I'm going to turn on my floral wallpaper layer, and I want to make sure that layer is selected. And down here at the bottom of our layer panel, there's this little button that says add layer mask. And so I'm going to click that and boom, there's my layer mask. So the thing that's really nice about working this way is that now if I want can see that, you know, there's some haloing around the edges, and I can take my brush, and the halo, that's from the scan. That was something that's in the original picture. And I can, with my mask selected, I'm going to flip my foreground and background color because white reveals through the mask. So if I paint with white, you can see how it's expanding, right? And so I could even take a different brush if I wanted, a brush that's a little bit harder edged. You know, you can play around with that, but that is the beauty of using a mask to define where your add-in will go, because you can work back and forth to adjust that border of the edge of the mask. The next thing I want to do is work on adjusting the color in the whole photograph that is not the shirt. And to do that, I'm going to command click on the mask, which loads the mask as a selection. And now I'm going to do an inverse, which is going to select everything that is not the mask. So I'm going to do select inverse. And now I'm going to make an adjustment layer. So we'll go layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation. And I'll call this background color. And I liked that purple. And I had to mess around a little bit to get that color purple. I had to turn on the colorize button, and there. That is, I like that. That looks good. And my layer is at the top of the stack. So that's important. Remember, the visibility of your layers depends on where they live in the stack. And so if I move this layer down here, it's going to look different. And so I want that to be at the very top. Now from here, I might want to reveal, just to give some dimension, reveal the skin back through this purple that I just created, and white reveals, so through the mask, and black conceals. So I'm gonna go to black because I want to conceal. So wow, it it didn't really seem that green in the original scan, but compared to purple, it really is. And I don't really like the way that looks. So, but like I said, I do want there to be some, I want the skin to be a different color than the background. So I am just painting with black on the mask, on the background color mask. And this is where giving your layers names can be super helpful, because once you get a lot of layers going, it can be confusing. And you know, any way that you can organize to help you remember what you're doing and where you're working is helpful. Okay, there is the arms, and here is the head. It was like this picture, the photograph that I scanned had been colorized, and like the little cheeks were, and the lips kind of had some interesting color on them. So I'm gonna try to get some of that back, and just to get rid of the purple, because I don't want the human to be the same color as the background. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay, I want to also bring in the Procreate drawing. But before I do that, let's, here, I had a blending mode on this. Let's put that on because that really made a difference. There we go. That made, it's kind of a focal point of the image, and also helps with the color. Okay, here's my tree sketch. Here is the image that I brought in from Procreate, and under image size. Now remember, we want to get the size approximately the same size that you will need in your image. And let's make this height 11 inches. And this time I am going to resample because I want this to get smaller. So 11 inches high, and say okay. All right. Now, this part is pretty tricky. I made a selection using the Select and Mask tool. I selected these interesting trees that I drew, and I'm not going to do that right now because you guys have seen me use Select and Mask. So, and it was quite time consuming. And so I did save the selection, however. So I'm just going to load that selection now. And, oh, only 2 of the trees are selected. Wait, let me see. Load selection. Wait, select, load selection. Okay, I've got 2. Okay, there we go. Okay, there's my selection. And now I'm going to do Command C for copy. And now I'm coming over to my scanned image, and I'm doing Command V for paste. And the new layer that is created will always go directly on top of the layer that was most recently selected. So before I had floral wallpaper selected, and that's why this new layer showed up on top of floral wallpaper, which that's okay. Now, I'm going to, of course, in Photoshop, there are always several different ways to do any particular operation, but I'm going to move these. So I'm just taking the lasso tool, and to select, I'm doing Command X to cut and then Command V to paste. And so that just cut it from layer 1 and put it on its own layer. And now when I take the move tool, I can move it independently. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to move each one of these independently to place them. And so that works. Let's come up here. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. These are a little bit more connected, but go like this, and Command X, and then Command V, and then grab the move tool, and I can move. Now, if you want to rotate, so you click the show transform controls, and then you can adjust. Oh, kind of like this. Okay, and then you have to apply the adjustment by clicking the checkbox. Okay, let's put this one down here. Okay. All right, that looks good. Let's just position these so they're all, we're gonna put them in the, really like the background. Okay. So I select each layer as I go to move it. Okay. Okay, now if I move floral wallpaper up here, I change my layer in the stack. That's all right. We'll go like this. So you can play around with your layer orders. What I did for my final was I made a mask of the human, and that is how I masked out the tree from where the human is. So I did that, and then I made another mask. I'm not going to go through this, but I made another mask along here, and you can do this also just by creating a selection and making an adjustment layer. You don't have to mask it, but I did a posterize adjustment layer. So that is under image. I mean, learning the program has everything to do with spending time playing with it and doing trial and error and seeing what you like. And I've given you all kinds of tools that you can try. So I did posterize across the bottom. That's what, and then I also did another adjustment layer on top of that. And I made I clipped another mask to it to change the color. I can go through, why don't I just go ahead and go through that and show you. So let's take the magnetic lasso, and I am selecting the grass. I am. Magnetic lasso is pretty fast. You could also use select and mask to do this. There's always several ways to do any operation in Photoshop, and I like to use the tool that is the fastest. Let's now take, I'm going to add, so just this part that I missed, we'll add to that and add over here. Where, oh no, remember when this happened? There we go. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna do posterize. So before I do my adjustment layer though, I have to make sure that I'm selecting the layer that has the pixels that the grass is living on. Right now, my hue saturation layer on the top is selected, and there are no pixels living there on that. So, oh, that's weird. I missed a spot there. Okay, so we're coming down here, and now I selected the background. Now I'm going layer, new adjustment layer, and I'm going to posterize. And I'll say, okay. Ooh, ah, that looks pretty funky. Now, a lot of these like super, you know, this has a very distinctive look to it, posterization does. And often if you posterize something, you shouldn't just posterize it. You should include other adjustments as well. It's kind of like we used to say back in the day, never use paint straight out of the tube. You should always mix it with something else. It's the same. I mean, you know, these rules are meant to be broken, but I added another adjustment layer to this posterize layer, and I did that by, so I make sure my posterize adjustment layer is selected, and then I'm going to go layer, new adjustment layer, and then I did a hue saturation layer on top of it. Now, here is where we want to check this box that says use previous layer to create a clipping mask. And what that means is this new layer is going to literally be clipped to the layer underneath it. And so any change that I make in my adjustment is only going to apply to the mask that's underneath. And I had that kind of righteous, let me click colorize, that righteous blue color that I really like. And I think I made this darker too. Yeah. Oh, that looks weird. Is that from my cloning? Okay, let's do this. Let's just drag both of these above the cloning layer, because I think that we'll just do a little experiment and see. Is that, yep, that was from cloning. So yeah, so there, that was clipping mask and posterize and clipping mask. And now up here where I was saying this is weird, I don't know what happened, but it doesn't look very good. So white reveals, black conceals. All right, I'm going to 100% opacity. I want to reveal through. Okay, and I'm just painting that on there. Oh, don't want to get over into the shirt. Okay, that looks better. Okay, that's it. And feel free to email me if you have any questions. Bye.